Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead. My name is Justin. I live with my wife Melissa. We got 3 kids. We do the best we possibly can to serve the Lord, although we fail more than we would like to admit. We live in a little bitty tiny house that you can see over my shoulder, and we try to do the best we can to live as self-sustainable as possible. And we are in the truck. Once again, this seems to be a common occurrence anymore because it is just so windy and it's fixing to get really, really cold. And if I do the video outside right now, all you're going to hear is, right, that's all you're going to hear. So we thought maybe I'd just sit in the truck. It'd be a little bit easier. So what's today's video about? Today's video is about UN Agenda 2030.
Was blind, but now I see.
Why UN Agenda 2030 on this homesteading page? Why are you talking about this stuff, you red-bearded lunatic? Well, I'm talking about this stuff because I want you to understand that all the rules, regulations, and laws that our government is passing is in an effort to try the best that they possibly can to follow this UN agenda, to follow up on the sustainable goals that have been set, right? The decade of trying to do those things and get set up for them. Whenever I Googled the UN Agenda 2030 in my search engine, just hit search on the Google bar, right? You know what come up? It's kind of odd. The very first thing that come up wasn't the UN Agenda 2030. The first thing that come up was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the goalkeepers stuff, right? And if you'll read through that stuff, which I did because I was curious why it was the first thing to come up, you're going to find about the... You're going to read a bunch about women's equality, right? And how that we're falling behind and we need to do better. That is one of the sustainable goals that you will read, one of the 17 goals that you'll read through the UN Agenda 2030 document. And as you read down through that document, you'll find this women's equality stuff, right? And I want to say it this way, right? I'm not saying that women shouldn't be treated equal and good and all those things. It's not what I'm saying. This is just an example, okay? So cool your jets. Don't get mad at me. So we read down through there, and I'll try to put a whole bunch of these links in the descriptions down below, so hang with us, right? So you read down through there, and you start reading this stuff on the Goalkeepers website. And as I'm reading this stuff, what I'm finding is one of the things that they're mentioning is on the Bill and Melinda website, right? Bill and Melinda Gates goalkeepers thing. One of the things that I'm finding is that they're talking about one of the best ways to stimulate the economy is for the government to take the money from the government and put it back into the people, which I find a little bit odd, because I know at least here in the United States the way it's supposed to work is that we pay taxes to the government to fund the government, and according to them, one of the best ways to stimulate the economy is for the government to take that money and give it back to us. Why don't you just not charge me the crazy taxes? Just a thought. But anyhow, moving on. Here's what we find, right? One of the things it talks about is using some sort of identification in mobile banking, right? And I thought to myself, this sounds really familiar. Why does this sound really familiar? It's because I've studied ID 2020. Which I'll also put that link down below, right? ID 2020 is an initiative, an alliance of people that have come together to say, listen, we need to have a digital ID worldwide so that everybody can be a part of their governmental system and banking system and all of those kinds of things, each and every person around the world. We all have some sort of digital ID, especially in the United States. You got Amazon, you got Google, you got YouTube, whatever. You've got a digital ID. But what they're saying is we need a non-hackable, digital ID. That way, if you had to flee the country, whatever, wherever you're at, all of your health records, banking, and all that is connected to this digital ID. From a Christian perspective, I look at that and go, that sounds awful mark of the beastie to me, but that's what they're pushing for. And so that's what cued into my brain whenever I read over here about the goalkeepers and their attachment to the UN Agenda 2030. And so then I went back over to the ID 2020, and I was refreshing myself on some of the founding members and the people that's sending them money and those kinds of things. And one of them is Gavi. If you're not familiar with Gavi, Gavi is, boy, I don't know how to say this on YouTube without getting in trouble. Gavi is The people that want to give all kinds of doohickeys, if you've not seen my mRNA lettuce video, is what I'm talking about. They want to give all kinds of doohickeys to people all around the world. And so, who starts this? Well, it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? So let me see if I can help you with this spider web just a little bit. UN Agenda 2030 says, hey, we need women's equality to be stronger and better all around the world, and this is a sustainable development goal that we have set. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation says, hey, we are falling short of this goal. We need to have digital IDs and digital banking for all of the women basically around the world. That way, when the government gives money to the people, the women will have this money directly deposited into their bank account, right? And knowing that this is something that they have said, something that they are supporting the UN in, and then understanding ID 2020 is an initiative for everybody to have a digital ID all around the world, it begins to take this whole spider web and weave it together, and you go, boy, it seems like all this is connected. But if you say that in public, you're a crazy individual, right? And you have fallen off your rocker, your cheese has slid off your cracker, all of these things, right? And so, once again, why is this important? Well, it's important because the UN is setting policies for the entire planet pretty well. And according to the UN, once you have signed up to be a part of the UN as a member state, you need and have to follow their rules, regulations, and policies set forth. So, I hope you understand UN Agenda 2030. I hope you read through it, and I hope you begin to connect the dots. And I do want to say this. Most of it's going to sound really good until you understand maybe the meaning. How are they going to get to these goals? What's it going to take to get there? Everything takes sacrifice, right? Every little thing you do in this life takes sacrifice of some sort. I'll give you an example. If I want to have a whole lot of money, I am probably going to have to spend a lot of time away from my family to accumulate that money. If I want to spend more time with my family, we're probably not going to have as much money. You see, it's going to take sacrifice one way or the other. And so, understanding that everything takes sacrifice, and it takes sacrifices to get to those goals, then you begin to connect some more dots and go, boy, it seems like maybe we're going to have to sacrifice some things, like if we're going to have electric vehicles around the world, then this nice pick-em-up truck that I'm in right now is going to have to be sacrificed, right? Those kind of, because this is not a fuel-efficient vehicle whatsoever. I did not buy it for its fuel efficiency. I bought it for its ability to haul things, right? That's why we have this truck. And so, when you understand that, you read these goals and you go, so good in concept, and I understand, right? Maybe we're just, shooting for the stars, hoping to land on the moon here. However, whenever we look around at our policies here in the United States that are being set, and we realize how hard these things are being pushed, it just doesn't seem like it's working. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, the Bible says that Satan, right, showed up as an angel of light, at least for a little while. So if you read through these sustainable goals, a lot of them are going to sound good, look good, all of these things, right? But remember, the Bible says that even Satan himself, right, come forth as an angel of light for a little while at least, right? Looking good, and then eventually turned from those things. And so, just because it looks good and sounds good doesn't mean it is good. So, I hope that you will at least spend some time reading. Even if you don't like me, you hate the fact that I've made this video and you wish YouTube would kick me off, don't worry, they probably will. That's why we made a Rumble channel, which is also going to be in the link down below. It's at least a secondary backup, something, right? Even if you don't agree with me, don't like me, all these things, go and look at the UN Agenda 2030, read through it, and then with an open and honest mind, at least begin to understand the policies we're putting forth today and go, well, they definitely at least seem to be connected. It's going to be pretty hard to deny that they're connected. It's going to be pretty hard to deny that there's a global governing force. That is what the UN is, right? So these people like me who would go, hey, there's a global government, or there's an attempt for everybody to fall under a one world government, right? You go, that sounds nutty. I don't think the UN's really, have you read the UN? Like, that's what they consider themselves, is the worldwide governing force, right? And I say all these things not just because I want you to understand from a homesteading perspective, but from a biblical perspective, it sure is paving the way for biblical prophecy to come true. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time.